Well, good day, everybody, and welcome aboard for the October live stream. I'm coming to you from a reasonably remote location this evening, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. We've got quite an interesting topic tonight. What we're doing, we're going to be looking at the advice that you'd give your younger self if you were able to go back in time and talk to yourself when you were a teenager, perhaps, and give yourself some advice on what you might do differently to ensure that you are a better, happier, more successful fisherman or fisher lady at this point in your life. So I think it's quite an interesting one, and I'm sure that a lot of you'll have some ideas on it. Hold off on them for a little while because there's a couple of other things that I want to tell you about first. First up is where I am. I'm not at home in my office like I usually am. I'll show you where I am. I'm in Tumut, on the beautiful Tumut River in southwestern New South Wales. I've come down here for my first trout trip of the season, and the weather's looking pretty good so far. I've only had a chance to have a quick fish, but I've got to tell you, I've already caught my first trout of the season. It wasn't particularly big, but I was pretty happy to have caught one. I'll just give you a little look at exactly where I am. So there we go. That's the park that we're staying in, Reflections Tumut River, and it's right on the river. This is me walking down to throw a lure around earlier today, and I'm still within the boundaries of the caravan park here. The river's very high. It's running high and cold and clear at the moment, as the Tumut River often does. It tends to run high, clear and cold whenever they're generating a lot of electricity. Makes it fairly tricky to fish. I'm lure casting, as you can see. It's running a bit hard and a bit high at the moment to fly fish. But I actually did catch a trout, just a little brownie not far along from there. Yeah, there's a few snakes out already as the weather warms up, but what a glorious location it is. So if you're looking for somewhere to come down to in this part of the world, I can strongly recommend Reflections Tumut River Park. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, before we get into tonight's main topic, we're going to be talking about the advice that you'd give your younger self to make your fishing better today and make yourself happier, and I think we're going to come up with some interesting stuff. I floated it on social media a while ago and already had some great feedback, but I just wanted to tell you about a couple of other things that are going on. The other thing that I did today was draw the most recent prize pack in the early bird sign up for my Sydney Harbour fishing course. A lot of you will know that I'm dropping Starlo's Secrets for Fishing Sydney Harbour, an online course, early in December this year, and we've been taking early bird sign-ups for it nearly all year, and we've got quite a lot of people on board already. And as an added incentive, apart from it being half price, you also go in the running for this incredible prize pack of Shimano and Mako eyewear gear, a Miravel reel, an Asenza rod, a spool of Kairiki braid, and those wonderful Mako sunnies. We've had 4 of those packs. Each one of them is valued at about $792 recommended retail. We've given away 2 already, and you can see our lucky winners there getting their prize packs earlier in the year. And I randomly drew another one from the list today, and I can announce for the first time tonight that the winner is a gentleman by the name of John Emblem. Now, John has actually put a do not disturb on his email address, so we can't email him and tell him. But I'm sure someone will let John know, and also we'll post it on my Fishertopia Facebook page. And I've also found his profile on Facebook, so worst case scenario, we'll reach out to John that way. But congratulations, John Emblem. There's still one of those prize packs to be drawn. That'll be drawn at the end of November before the course goes live in early December. So there's still time to jump on board and go in the running for that final prize pack. Well, look, lots of comments coming in already. Congrats to the winner. Someone's already coming up with some ideas about what they'd tell their younger self. Sit on those for a little bit because they'll get lost in the comment stream otherwise. Here's an interesting comment. Neil said he just got himself a Shimano Twin Power after fishing Daiwa reels for most of my time fishing. Very impressive reel. Yeah, the Twin Power is a great reel. Got to check out these new Naskies. They've only just dropped. They've got to be the best value for money spinning reel. I think they're under $200. I mean, if you shop around, you probably get them for like $185, $190, these new Naskis. And gee, they're good. They incorporate a lot of the same features that are found in much more higher end Shimano reels. While I'm still just touching on my courses, the Sydney Harbour course, and giving away those prizes, another one that I know a lot of people have already jumped on board for is my soft plastics mastery course. That's been a very, very popular one. If you want to get onto any of these courses, just go to fishotopia.com and you'll find how you can do it. But none of them are particularly expensive. Here's an interesting comment that's just come in. The ultimate hunting skill would have to be observation for me. A lot of people talked about observation when it came to advice that they would give their younger self. That's one that we'll certainly be touching on. Now, the other amazing news I've got for you tonight is I've got some prizes to give away tonight. I've actually got a pack of Arc Genesis jig heads from Lee Boardman, the creator of Arc Genesis jigs, which are a tungsten-based jig head. There's a couple of designs in them. I've been talking quite a bit about them. I've been using them almost exclusively for the last little while. Really, really good jig heads, great hooks in them and everything else. And I just love that tungsten, the fact that it's denser than lead, casts further, sinks faster. In situations where you need that, it's really, really handy. And along with a packet of his quarter-ounce Pro Tournament jig heads, I'm going to give away a packet of the new or reborn Squidgy's Bugs. Squidgy Bugs were one of my favourites from the original Squidgy's range, and they're back now. I'm happy to announce the Bugs and the Lobbies. They're not quite on the market yet. They're still a couple of weeks away, I believe, but I've got a couple of packets. Let me show you. So I've got a packet of the Squidgy Bugs in the Cloud 9 colour, beautiful baitfish colour, and a packet of those Arc Genesis quarter-ounce Pro Tournament jig heads. And whoever asks what I reckon is the best question or comes up with the best answer to what you'd tell your younger self is going to take those home tonight. So put your thinking cap on, have a bit of a think about that. You might pick up those prizes. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Listen to me, kid. If you could go back in time, jump in the DeLorean and Back to the Future and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself? My younger self there, I used to catch some pretty nice fish, but there's probably things that I would do differently if I went back to that time and was able to tell my younger self some clues about how to improve my fishing. What sort of things would I say? One of the things that I think of is some advice that Vic McChrystal, now a lot of people will recognise Vic's name. Vic was the doyen of Australian fishing writing back in he started in the late 50s and he wrote right through the 60s, 70s, 80s. Didn't actually retire until right into the early 90s. Unfortunately passed away quite a few years ago now, but Vic lived up in Cardwell in Queensland. He was just the most fantastic fishing and outdoor writer. He was a hunter as well as a fisherman. He gave me some advice when I was a young bloke, about 21 or 22, and I didn't take it, and I wish I had. And the thing that Vic said was, keep a diary. Keep a logbook or a diary of your fishing or just your life in general. I mean, I think Vic used to diarise everything, but having a fishing journal is a great way of tracking the things that are producing more fish for you. I mean, I often say that successful fishing is about repeating productive patterns and eliminating non-productive patterns. And keeping a diary or a logbook is a great way to do that. So it's something that I wish I'd taken on board. It's a bit late for me now, but it is a great suggestion from Vic, and I don't know how many of you people keep a logbook. Let me know if you do. It is a great way of tracking your fishing results and optimizing those things that work for you better than others. One of the things that I do, because I didn't keep a diary, but something that's really handy, a lot of us now take photos of the fish that we catch on our mobile phones, and that records all the data about when those fish were caught, not only the date, but the time of day. And that's a really handy tool. I often go back through my old photo library on the phone and go, wow, what day of the year did I have that bass catch? And you have a look and it's, the 23rd of October. I might go out this year at the same around the same date, and there's a very good chance that you'd be able to repeat the same kind of results. Let's have a look at some of these comments that are going in before we lose too many of them up to the top of the screen. Tell all the younger souls that we started with mono and still catch fish with mono. All the else is to catch fishermen, not fish. Well, I'd have to disagree with you on that. If you got my Fishotopian newsletter today that went out, I mentioned in it that I was asked what I thought the single biggest breakthrough in fishing gear had been across my lifetime, and I nominated braided line. Braids made an absolute world of difference to me. That said, there's still applications where I use mono and fluorocarbon instead of braid, but they're probably 5% or less of my fishing. But, plenty of people catch plenty of fish on nylon. There's no doubt about that. What have we got here from Fishing with David? I would tell myself less thinking about worrying what people think and start doing instead. Be different. Catch different. I really like that. And a lot of people, when I asked for ideas, a lot of people said go fishing more often. I loved one line there. It was wet lines catch fish, dry lines don't. There's a message in that, isn't there? If you haven't got a line in the water, you're not going to catch a fish. I jotted down a couple of the other great comments that I got here. Fish lighter. Never leave fish to find fish. Just enjoy being there. Pay more attention to observation. That observation thing comes up again and again. Be sun safe. That's a really good one. A lot of us now in our older years are starting to run into skin cancer issues, and it's because we didn't look after our skin when we were younger, didn't cover up, didn't put sunscreen on, didn't wear broad-brimmed hats. So that's a really good one too. My mate Steve Peachy said, I quoted him, he said, "You know that fly fishing thing that you always wanted to do one day? Well, do it now." That's a good bit of advice too. Don't put stuff off. If you've thought, I'd really like to give fly fishing a go, just actually get out there and give it a go. Invest in good gear was another one. You're going to be using it for a long time, so it's important in your life. Invest in good gear. Never buy bait, catch your own. That's another interesting one. Don't go in circles chasing everything. Be more patient. Slow down was one that I got a lot. Slow down not only in your race to catch more fish, but also just in your actual presentations, especially with things like soft plastics and fly. A lot of people fish those things too fast. So yeah, slow down a little bit can be a great idea. If I could go back and educate myself about the lunar cycle and noting fish behavior during those cycles, also buy the best gear that you can afford. Buy once, buy right. That's good. What's this one? I would tell my younger self to slow down. Don't get caught by the big names in lures and experiment. That's a really good point. Trends and fashions come along in fishing and we all tend to jump on them at different times. The old stuff still works and stuff that no one else is using works. It's really a good idea to think outside the box sometimes. Lee from Arc Genesis said that he'd tell himself to carry less tackle. He says, unfortunately, I still haven't learnt. And I think a lot of us are in that boat. Neil said, varied retrieves get more fish. I like that one too. There's an interesting one from H&G. Speaking of nice reels, I have a 1953 Benora spinning reel made by a Swiss watchmaker. Has as smooth a drag as my Daiwa Steez. Even has a ratchet knob like overheads. Wow, I've got to say, I am not familiar with that reel at all. I used to use the old Abu Cardinals and the little Mitchells and things like that, but I don't know the Benora. That's an interesting one. Buy more gold. Now, this is interesting. The whole thing about managing your finances better. Someone actually said get into superannuation earlier so that you can retire earlier and go fishing more. And there were quite a few people who commented along the lines of looking after your finances better so that you had more funds later in life to be able to spend on your fishing, to be able to travel, and hopefully to be able to retire a little bit earlier and go fishing more often. So that's quite interesting. And it brings me on to the next little video clip that I want to play you tonight. I actually did an interview with Matt Curtis, who's a partner at CM Partners Accounting, who are the sponsors of tonight's live stream. Now, Matt's a great guy. He absolutely loves his water sports, kayaking, boating. He's a bit of a mad keen fisher as well. He had some really interesting advice to offer about looking after your finances. So I'm just going to run that because I found it fascinating.
Hey, Starlo, how you going? going. Yeah, no, I love my fishing, and always have. Fishing's one of those great recreational sports that I grew up on the North Coast. So as a kid, always fished, mates always fished, great pastime. And one of the great joys in life is raising kids and seeing them fish. There's no better experience than watching the kids throw out, a line and grab a fish. And even now, kids growing up, seeing them going off fishing and having a good time with friends and family. So it's definitely it's a great sport to be involved in, fishing.
It is. So fishing up the North Coast, what styles did you do? A bit of everything, bit of beach fishing, bit of estuary?
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of beach fishing. Yeah, with the big rods and stuff. So straight out there, and then a bit of rock fishing around sort of Byron Bay and off there, which obviously can get fairly dangerous at times. Yeah, so a bit of everything. We had the Brunswick River up there, and obviously ocean.
Yeah, pretty exciting. Well, we've been talking tonight and chatting with people about it's an interesting topic. What advice would you give to your 18 or 20-year-old self to make your life better at the point that you're at in your life now? And we've been talking about fishing, but it's amazing how many people have mentioned finances and the fact that if they had been a bit smarter when they were younger, they'd probably have a bit more money to spend and a bit more time to be able to go fishing and travel and do all those kind of things. Now, is that a regret that you come across quite often in your line of business?
Yeah, look, definitely 100%. It's interesting, we're talking about fishing and fishing, you need a lot of patience. Sometimes I don't have a lot of patience, so I'm probably not the best fisherman. But with getting ahead in life, the biggest mistake I think people make is that they think it's going to happen overnight, and it doesn't, unless for whatever reason you've hit the jackpot with a particular investment, or whether it's a crypto investment or something. And what I would give my kids or anyone is it's all about patience and slow, timely investments. Whether that's property, shares, or your business. Nothing happens overnight, so it's a slow, steady process that you need to be aware of, and don't be disheartened if it happens. It doesn't happen quickly for you. You get to the end of your career. Hopefully, you can retire earlier and enjoy more fishing.
I guess the underlying message in that too is that because it does take a while, the sooner you start, the better.
Yeah, no, that's correct. And the theory of compound interest or compound investments, that's correct. The younger you can start, the better, and have a goal and certain milestones that's achievable for you to have financial health in retirement.
I've got on board with CM Partners, and you guys have been doing our books, and it's been fantastic. It's really, really helped us a lot to sort of minimise the tax that we have to pay and know where we are and be able to keep on top of things. And that's a service that you guys and girls offer to all kinds of people. What's your major clientele? What sort of people are mostly coming to CM Partners?
Look, our clientele is small to medium-sized businesses that need help with their business, compliance, tax planning, but they also come to us because they want to know where to go to obtain other types of services, whether that's finance, insurance, advisory, wealth creation. So we're able to point them in the right direction depending on what their needs are. And every client has a different need at a different stage of their life. And we feel at CM Partners, we've got the right partner relationships that we can, provide that to our clients and, help them in that journey of getting towards retirement.
And it seems like you've got the connections that if it's something they want to do that isn't necessarily a service that CM Partners provide, you're able to refer them to the right people. Is that correct?
Yeah, over 25 years of experience in this industry, we feel that we've developed very strong relationships, partnerships with various different industries, whether it's insurance, legal, planning, finance, and we will at least lead them in the right direction.
That's terrific. And if they use the link that I've got down in the description below, they can set up a consultation with you guys absolutely free, and I believe there's no obligation.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something we offer in regards to a free obligation meeting, and make sure we put you with the right person within our organisation to have that initial consultation and at least provide your feedback of what we believe you should be doing into the future.
Yeah, that's terrific. I wish I'd found SAM partners when I was 20 rather than in my 60s, and I think you guys can help a lot of people to achieve that better life balance and perhaps retire a bit earlier and enjoy their fishing a bit more. Thanks for having a chat to us tonight. It's been really good to catch up.
No worries, Starlo.
Yeah, some pretty good advice there from Matt, and some great comments have been coming in too. Steve Jones said, I did learn something in life, and that is that you don't have to cast over the moon on the beach to catch fish. I find the fish are at my feet, and I talk about this a lot in some of my YouTube episodes about that fact that you don't have to punch the bait out over the horizon and cast halfway to New Zealand to catch fish. A lot of the fish are within that 20 to 30 metre band of the shore. This is another good one from Bill and the Kelpies. I'd tell my young self that success is not measured by the biggest fish or the biggest bag. Live in the moment and enjoy the fishing experience. And boy, that can be a hard thing to get across to younger anglers, but it definitely is a really, really good message, and it becomes a lot easier to accept as you get older, I think. Here's another one from Mr. Comfy Australia. Another is when fishing the beach, it isn't a casting contest. There we go. This is another one about not needing to cast over the horizon, and Burley does work off the beach. It sure does. On top of observation, keeping a diary, I would have also taught myself to target fish instead of fishing at the wrong spot, wrong time, wrong gear, fishing for anything. I like that. You know, one of the ways that I used to differentiate between, if you see people fishing and you ask them what they're fishing for, the ones that say, oh, whatever comes along, normally don't catch very much. The ones that say, I'm fishing for flathead, or I'm targeting brim, or I'm chasing a luderick, they're the ones, that might not be what they actually end up catching, but they are the ones who usually end up catching more fish. So those are great bits of advice. Oh, here's one. Don't hesitate to start using lures instead of bait. Yeah, I mean, that's a good bit of advice too. Most of us start out with bait fishing. Some of us then get into lure fishing. A smaller subset, again, might go into fly fishing. Each step is probably a little bit more of a challenge. In some ways, it can be argued that it makes it a little bit harder, but we do it because of the satisfaction and because it does offer a challenge. Don't be afraid to switch over to lures. I still meet people who say, oh, do lures really work? I hate to think how many fish I've caught on lures over the years. Rather than just going out any day of the week, make a plan and stick to the plan. So that sort of ties in with what we were talking about before about actually targeting a fish. Structure does count. Don't be scared of a snag. Well, in a lot of fishing situations, if you're not getting snagged on a regular basis, you're probably not going to catch fish. Bass fishing in rivers would be a classic example of that. If you're constantly casting a metre short of the snags and you're not getting snagged up, then you're probably not going to catch very many bass. So you've got to speculate to accumulate, get that lure right in there. One of the things I'd tell my younger self is to get into fishing earlier. Yeah, that ties in with some of the other ones we've had about don't put stuff off if you want to try something new. If you want to have a crack at lure fishing, if you want to have a crack at fly fishing, if you've only ever saltwater fished and you've thought about freshwater fishing, go and do these things. Don't put them off. Life's short. And that's something that's worth bearing in mind. It might seem like a long time while you're going through it, but when you get towards the end of it, as you know, I'm a lot closer to the end than I am to the beginning at 67 years of age, and you start thinking about stuff like that. Look, I've got to go back up to this one. I absolutely love it. And I'm actually going to make a rash decision here and give the prize to Tom. Tom said, hey, Starlo, I'm a young fisho, and one thing I would tell my younger self would be to just ignore what the popular fishing trends and brands are and just fish the way that makes me happy. I reckon that's a wonderful message, especially coming from a younger angler. Tom, the Arc Genesis jig heads and the packet of squidgy bugs are going to be going out to you. I'm down here at Tumut for the rest of the week, so it won't be until next week that I'll get a chance to post them to you. But well done, mate. That's I absolutely love that comment. Growing up, my brother would say, fish don't eat plastic. I ignored him, and thankfully I did. I've caught my biggest fish on squidgies. Bottom line advice to younger people, listen to the experts. Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's cynical people out there who tell you that it's all marketing ploys. And, a common line that you hear is that lures are designed to catch fish rather than fishermen. And, certainly some aspects of them are. Some of the paint jobs and things on lures, there's no way it makes any difference to the fish, whether it's got little gills and fins and everything on it. When they see something flash past, they don't look at that kind of detail. That's there to catch the fisherman. But the overall presence and action and performance of the lure is what catches the fish. So thank you for that, Mr. Comfrey. Give Starlo a thumbs up on the video. I'm really enjoying these live streams. I'd love to hear your ideas on some of the subjects that you'd like me to tackle in future. I'm not absolutely sure that I'll be able to do the first Tuesday of November. That's Melbourne Cup Day, by the way. Joe and I will actually be up in Queensland chasing barra in some of the dams up there. And I think on that particular day, we'll have been fishing with Dean Sylvester, chasing some really big barra, doing the, dare I say it, the forward-facing sonar thing, which I know tends to sort of polarize people's opinion. I'm a bit ambivalent about the whole thing, but I love watching it. I love watching people who are good at using it. Dean is very, very good at using it, and looking forward to that. We're actually going to try and get Joe onto a really big one on fly. So that'll be interesting. I'll let you know how we go. Here we go. What have we got here? I found over time that if I follow what's happened in a fishing report, it's too late. Make your own plans. Just spare a thought for me when I was growing up. I mean, by the time I got a fishing report through a fishing magazine, it was between 3 and 5 months old. That's how long the lead times were on Modern Fishing and Fishing World back in the 80s and 90s, when they were, they had to be assembled and put together and sent overseas and printed and shipped back and put in the news agents and sold. So they were months old. Then things got a little bit quicker. But now, I mean, you can almost get real-time fishing stuff from social media, which is probably a bit of a double-edged sword. It's not always great. It does mean that fish get put under a lot more pressure. When I look at the yellowfin run we've had down on the far south coast of New South Wales across the last month or so, I'm sure you've all heard about it. Yellowfin tuna run like nothing that I've seen in my lifetime. It's just extraordinary. A lot of yellowfin, mostly in that sort of 25 to 60 kilo range. None of the super jumbos, but pretty big fish, big sickles, amazing fish, and they're catching them on stick baits and all sorts of stuff. Joe and I headed out to try and catch one a couple of weeks ago now. We had a classic day. I mean, our boat's not very big, so we really pick our conditions before we head offshore. And we covered 75 to 80 kilometres of ocean and didn't see a tuna. They were catching them north of us and south of us. It's very easy to zig when they zag, and it's a big ocean out there. We saw plenty of dolphins, plenty of whales, plenty of bait, seals, penguins, everything except those damn tuna. We didn't find them, and we haven't had a chance to get back out and have another look since. And look, to be honest with you, it's something I can take or leave these days. I've done a lot of it in my life. It's fantastic fun, don't get me wrong. We don't really have the gear for it anymore. And to be honest with you, I'm just as happy up the river catching a bass, or up here catching a trout, or chucking little lures for bream. I don't need to catch huge fish anymore to be really happy. Hey, thank you very much. Doing It Fresh has just kicked in $20. Beers on me. I'll drink to that. And you can do that. It's wonderful being able to kick in and help your content providers like that. Any chance we could get an episode about fly fishing for sea mullet? I watched one of your older videos and decided to try it for myself. I managed to hook one, but it came off. Now, by sea mullet, he means bully mullet, the big ones, and they're tricky. I mean, I did a video not that long ago on burleying with bread and fishing fly. Well, I did two. I did one catching them on bait, but I'm talking here sand mullet and flat tail mullet, up to about 35, even 40 centimetres long. Good fish, great fun to catch. But those big bully or sea mullet that grow to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kilos in some situations, catching them consistently on anything is really, really tricky. Every now and again, they just have a rush of blood and they'll hit a lure or a fly that seems completely out of character. And when you tell you what, when you hook one, because they go really, really hard. Not a lot of people have cracked it to be able to catch them consistently. Yeah, poddy mullet, as David said. That's what the Victorians call them. Up here in New South Wales and Queensland, a poddy mullet is a tiny little mullet that we use for bait. But poddy mullet is the term they use for the big sea mullet down in Victoria. It's horses for courses and different names in different parts of the country. Jordan Moore wants to know, what's the best lure for bream? Well, you're not going to be overly surprised that I would tell you that if you could only have one lure for bream, it'd have to be a squidgy wriggler in the bloodworm colour. And people say, which bloodworm colour? 50 Shades of Bloodworm. What about bringing back the original? And then you get 6 different anglers and ask them to show you the original, and they've all got a slightly different one. But look, all the bloodworm colours have worked, as have a lot of the other colours in the squidgies. But a squidgy wriggler in bloodworm, and surprisingly enough, I'd say the 100 mil squidgy wriggler. It's not the smallest one. It's the next size up. 100 mil is a bit deceptive because they measure them pulled out straight, so it's not 100 mils long. But the 100 mil squidgy wriggler in bloodworm, and I trim them down a lot of the time. I just take a tiny bit off the nose and I trim the dorsal fin off the back just to make them more of a sort of worm shape. Not all the time, but when I want a bit of finesse, I often do that. That was something that Chris Slickwright and Bushy came up with years ago. They called it the drover's dog, and there's a bit of a story behind that, and we won't go into it because we've got a mixed audience, including young anglers. But yeah, the drover's dog, that trimmed down 100 mil squidgy fish, and you say, well, why not use the 80 mil squidgy fish rather than cutting a bit off the nose of the 100 mil? The 100 mil just had that bit more action in the tail for some reason. 100 mil squidgy wriggler fish in bloodworm on the lightest jig head that you can get away with in the situation that you're fishing, and about a number 2 hook, fine gauge, sharp hook, like the ones that Lee's putting in the new roundhead Arc Genesis jigs. There isn't a better lure made for bream, and you can fish from anywhere right up in the shallow flats out to deeper water with it. I mean, I love catching bream on my hard-bodied lures, but if I could only have one lure, that's what it'd be. All right, I'm getting carried away talking about squidgies. Neil wants to know, what's the biggest bass that I've ever caught? I caught 2 out of Glenbourne years ago when Lake Glenbourne was at its peak. They were both around that 50 to the fork, 52.5 to the tips, but they were like footballs. I actually weighed them on electronic scales in the net before letting them go. They were 2.95 and 2.99 kilos, so just under 3 kilos. But these days, some of the ones they're pulling out of Somerset in Queensland in particular, 4 kilos, 4.2 kilos, 56, 58 centimetre fish, just massive. My biggest wild bass, I've hit that 50 to the tips or 50.5 to the tips a couple of times, but I just can't seem to get any bigger than that. Barra Cartel said, love your recent video about your boat and look forward to hearing about the Lowrance Eagle forward-facing sonar. Yeah, a lot of people really liked the walk around that I did the other day. I figured I'd better do it, seeing we've had the snubby for going on for 9 years now. It'll be 9 years in November that we've had the Beastmaster Snubby 5.0, and it's been a great boat. Have a look at that if you haven't seen it. I'd just take you for a virtual tour through the whole boat. And I talk about the fact that I've just managed to get a good deal on one of those Lowrance Eagle Eye forward-facing sonars there. It's the poor man's forward-facing sonar. They've only got a little narrow beam going forward. I can't get it to work yet. I've put it on. I've put the transducer on the electric motor, and I've got a signal, but it's just clutter and noise at the moment. I've got something wrong. I've only had about an hour to play around with it the other day. I'll sort it out. I'll let you know for sure. Donna says, my question to my younger self would be, why didn't you fish the gorge more? I was brought up on the Clarence River. Yeah, the Clarence Gorge. What a magnificent bit of country that is. Although I've got to tell you, the best fishing is often just below the gorge, especially in September, early October, when those fish are heading back upstream from spawning down in the tidal reaches of the Clarence. If you get just the right flow rate and it's not quite enough water for them to get up through the gorge, and if you've ever walked that gorge, and I have years ago, you'll see that it's incredibly hard going for the fish to get up through there unless they've got exactly the right flow rates. So you tend to get the fish really sort of piling up at the bottom there. But it is a great part of the world. Fishing with David says, my first bream on a lure was on the old school squidgies, bloodworm and lake tires. Yeah, I'd like $1 for everyone whose first bream was caught on a squidgy wriggler. Doing It Fresh says, I've been fishing with lighter gear each time and finding a lot more success. That'd be something I'd let my younger self know. Quite a lot of people said more finesse, fish lighter. You definitely hook more fish. Sometimes means you lose more fish as well, so it is a bit of a fine line, but definitely results in more hookups. What lures should I use to target breeding Australian salmon? I'm down in Tassie. It's that time of year and they get as big as 90 plus centimetres. That's a big Australian salmon. I don't, yeah, I don't know. When you say breeding, obviously spawning aggregations, they should still feed. They can be tricky, I know, when they're like that. You see them just schooled up on the surface and the odd one flopping out of the water. But what I've always found, even when they're doing that, is that a couple of the fish in the school will be active. You know, if you fish metal bait fish profiles and things like that through them, keep them fairly small and go pretty quick. And every now and again, one will just peel off. And the other thing that's well worth trying is a surface lure, just a little popper or one of those the Shimano Ligans, which have become my go-to surface lure. They're not a particularly big lure. Give those a go. Matthew Harrison says, my advice to my younger self would be always learn something after each trip, whether it's a donut session or a great session. Yeah, that's really good. You do learn, you should learn from getting things wrong as well as from getting things right. And that's where that keeping the diary, big trick. If you do keep a logbook or a diary, don't only record your successful sessions because you're missing out on a lot of data by doing that. Record your unsuccessful sessions as well, because what you're going to try and do later on is rule those out, not do those same things that didn't work for you. Peter Mahoney says, my first brim on a lure was the old Rebel crick hopper. Plastics hadn't really caught on yet. I've actually got a crick hopper in my tackle box here with me on this trip to Tumut, believe it or not. I found one hanging on my lure wall downstairs. Hey, that's a good video that I should do in the next little while, is a walk through my lure wall. They get hung up there for a couple of different reasons. They didn't work. They worked really well. They've only got a couple of them left. So I've got all these weird and wonderful lures hanging on a pegboard downstairs in my tackle area. So it might be kind of fun to do a bit of a walkthrough of those at one stage. But yeah, the crick hopper, little hard-bodied lure. A lot of modern day anglers wouldn't have a clue what you're talking about there, but they were a really, really good lure. Levi wants to know, what's your most memorable fishing moment? Wow. As you can imagine, there's a few, but I think catching that giant bluefin tuna in Canada all those years ago, that 1,020-pound Atlantic bluefin tuna, I peaked early. I was only 22 years old, and I haven't caught anything anywhere near as big since, and I don't want to. That was hard work. Doing It Fresh wants to know, do you have a Discord, a place where you can build a strong community, let people discuss ideas, moderated with rules, of course? What we've actually got now is a private community for anyone who does one of my courses. So if you sign up and do one of my courses, even one of the cheap ones, there's only a couple so far, but I'm building courses. It's part of the way that I'm heading in the future. If you sign up to any of those, you get an invite to join our private community of people who have done the courses, so that's really good. Barracartel said that he wishes that I kept records. I know my biggest barra, but would love to know the other species. I think a lot of us as fishermen, we rely on our memory, and sometimes that's not all that good to remember our PBs of different species, but it is nice to know your PBs. I know fly fisherman Peter Morse keeps a tally of all the different species that he's caught on fly over the years, and he's up into the hundreds. It's just amazing. But I started jotting down mine a couple of years ago and got to over 100 pretty quickly as well. It's amazing if you fish a particular style of fishing for a long time. You do tend to rack up a lot of species. FM Outdoors wants to know, have I ever fished for sharks off the beach? Not deliberately. I've hooked a few, caught a few small whalers, been bitten off by quite a few. I guess the only time I did it deliberately was down on the Great Australian Bight when we did that famous episode where Bushy rather smartly decided not to climb down into Tillini Cove, amazing place near the top of the Bight, massive schools of salmon, and we climbed down all these ropes and ladders, and I wouldn't do it again now, but we were catching salmon off the beach and the big whalers were chasing them in and eating them right at our feet. So I rigged one up on wire and put it out and caught a couple and got shredded by a couple as well. But they're good fun. I'd love to be able to catch decent gummy sharks off the beach, or any gummy sharks off the beach. I live down in the right part of the world for it, but I just don't seem to catch them. Probably because I don't fish a lot at night. Most of them seem to get caught at night. I don't know if any of you saw that one that Roger Osborne got not that long ago fishing off the beach. It was huge. It had to be 30 kilos, I reckon, pushing 30 kilos. It was a monster. Can I recommend a fishing diary? Not really, but there's some online stuff. I use a weather service called Fish Ranger. Some of you might use it. I actually pay for it and subscribe to it. You can get there's a free version, but if you pay for it, you get longer forecasts into the future and stuff like that. And they have a log book thing that you can use online. And again, I haven't done it, but I should. Maybe I should do a log book and do a print on demand thing. I would love to see a video on top water trout challenge. Yeah. I mean, I caught plenty on dry flies, but I don't know if I've ever actually caught a trout on a surface lure, but I know people that are doing it, big browns and stuff like that, especially at night. Someone wanted to know, do I fish with Bushy? I haven't fished with Bushy for years. I've got to catch up with him. I've been hearing all these rumours about how many mulloway he's been catching off the beach. He's a secretive bugger, though. He probably won't tell me very much, and he certainly won't want me to come along if I've got the cameras with me. He likes to fly under the radar. I can't blame him for that. All right, let's see what else we've got to cover. Yeah, look, don't forget to check out those courses of mine. There's quite a few of them starting to build up now. I've got a golden perch one that drops in a week or two's time, and you can actually go on the waiting list for that. You can nominate that you're interested in it. There's no obligation. It just means that we'll email you when it comes out. Lazy Yakkers, Fishing Adventures. Ooh, golden perch course, sign me up, please, Joe. Yeah, well, jump on to fishatopia.com and you'll see how you can sign up or get your name on the wait list for that, and we'll then email. It'll be a cheap one. It's not going to be, but it'll be probably a $29 course. But wow, I've put some work into it. I'll tell you, there's a lot of stuff in there. It's a really interesting course. You can do it 3 different ways. You get all 3. There's a whole bunch of PDFs that you can print out and actually make like a magazine or a book out of it. You can use it like a conventional course and actually just work through it on screen, looking at the photos, listening to audio clips, looking at videos, or you can do the whole thing as a podcast, which you can either listen to all in one go or in chunks. So I've been recording all the podcast sections of that, and it's been a lot of fun, but a lot of work. Thank you, Barra Cartel, another super sticker. I really appreciate the support. Any of you who are involved in creating content for YouTube or whatever will know it doesn't pay particularly well, but I do love doing it, and any support that I can get from you folks who enjoy watching the stuff really helps. Do a live stream with Shroom. That's a good idea. I've done two collaborative videos with Shroom. I love fishing with Shroom. I've been doing quite a lot of YouTube stuff in the last couple of weeks, as well as that one on my boat. I've also made a couple about fishing in super shallow water, something that's a real favourite of mine, targeting that super skinny water for flathead and whiting and things like that. I made one recently about breaking the myth of looking for the deep hole. You don't always need to find the deepest part of any system to catch fish. In fact, you're going to find a lot more active fish feeding up in the shallows, and I've done a couple of videos about that just recently. Oh, yeah. Steve Jones says, I love those BT Bantam lures. They swim great. That's that jointed swim bait that I've been using up in the real shallow stuff. They've got an amazing action. They're 99 millimeters long. It's called a Bantam 99. They do a smaller one, and I got the smaller one, but it floats. I mean, that's fine. It's going to have its application, but the 99 one sinks very slowly, and I love the way you can just sort of control how far it goes. But the smaller one, the 66, which is hard to find in Australia, I've got a couple of them, it actually floats. So I've been putting those stick-on lead suspend dots, just sticking one under the chin of it to make it just sink very slowly. And it seems to give you a lot more versatility with that lure. Mr. Comfy says, thank you, mate. That was great. Well, thank you for watching, and thanks for sticking with us to the end. I think we've got 63 people watching at this stage. We peaked at about 78. So that was another good live stream. I'm still very much feeling my way with these live streams and learning as I go. As you can see, some of the glitches that I make as I go along, but thanks for hanging in there with me. Thanks so much for supporting my Starlo Gets Real channel on YouTube. I really, really do appreciate you getting on there and watching the videos. Please give me a thumbs up down below. That really helps. And there's a new thing called Hype. I'm still trying to find out where it lives myself, but if you see an opportunity to hype one of my videos, apparently it really helps as far as getting it out there with the algorithm so that more people get to see it. Mr. Comfy says, have a good holiday. Hey, I'm never on holidays. I'm down here working. No, seriously, I'm having a lot of fun. I caught my first trout of the season today. It was about that big, and I did miss a bigger one. I've only had a very brief chance to throw a lure around today in that lovely part of the Tumut River that I showed you, but I've got a couple of days now, and I've got a good mate coming down. I've got Joe here. We'll get out there and hopefully catch a couple. It's been last year was the most disappointing trout season of my life, I think. And the funny thing was that the three before that were probably the best trout seasons I can ever remember. But last season was just the pits. So I'm hoping that this one is better. Anyway, I wish you all tight lines, whatever you're chasing over the coming days and weeks. I hope you can find them. I hope you took something away from those wonderful suggestions about things that people would tell their younger self to improve their fishing and their enjoyment of fishing as they get older. And we're all getting older. All right, I got to go. Thank you very much. This is Starlo wishing you tight lines.